Namaste Yogi, it's Veronique with our July tutorial. Today I'm going to be breaking down Chaturanga. So about a year ago I did a Vinyasa tutorial which included Chaturanga, but I thought it would be particularly important to just look at Chaturanga itself because I've seen it in very different ways, and so I thought it might be helpful to just take a little bit more time with this particular shape since it is often sort of skimmed through in a class setting. So I'll just show you the shape with the use of blocks. You might want to have a couple blocks. I do recommend cork blocks to practice with, and depending the length of your limbs, you can play with the height of how you want the blocks. You could also do this with a bolster. That's actually one of my favorite ways to do it as well, is to have a bolster underneath you. So I'll just show you what the shape looks like with the use of blocks. The first block goes sort of here, and the second block goes sort of here. And the great thing about practicing Chaturanga with the use of the blocks is you can feel the alignment of the shape and not have a lot of compression on your joints, and then you can build that strength, and then you can start to have that muscle memory of where your joints are. So I'm just going to back up a little bit. So Chaturanga, our arms are like so. We want that nice flexion into the wrist, so it does require a certain amount of mobility in your wrists, and we want to hug those elbows into the rib cage. So we're making this nice 90-degree angle with the arms. The shoulders and the hips are at the same height, so we're coming from plank to low plank. So this is the action. There's a little bit of forward movement, and there's a little bit of lift off from the toes. So I'll show you what the shape is, and then we'll back up once again. So wrist creases in line with that first block. Your knees are down, and you'll slowly lower it down. So here I am in a supported Chaturanga with the knees on the ground. And then all I'll do is lift the knees up. So I'm in this nice supported Chaturanga shape. So as you can see, I can lift my hands and feet off of the ground. The blocks are fully supporting me. And then I can just feel what this shape is. So if you're practicing, it might feel nice to come into this shape with a certain sense of that support underneath you. So what that might look like is you're in your full plank, you're shifting onto the tops of the feet, so the shoulders move beyond the wrists. We're bringing the elbows straight back, and we're lowering down softly. And so this is the entire exhale in our Vinyasa flow, coming into this Chaturanga shape. So I'll show you what that looks like without the blocks. So if you're ready to break up with the blocks, you can set them to the side as well. So from your plank pose, you're shifting forward, and you're lowering down halfway. Not all the way, although that could be a modification, right? So if you come here, what I often see is we kind of get stuck around here. Just tap the knees down. So a supported plank to a supported Chaturanga, that could be a really nice modification. So what happens oftentimes is if we are collapsing into our joints, particularly our shoulders, into our wrists, we get to a point where we get kind of stuck. So over time, as you develop that arm strength, you'll be able to hold that entire exhale. And so what I often see, just to give you an idea, and maybe you can start to visualize in your mind where you are in your Vinyasa practice and see how this applies to your practice. What I often see is something like this, that it's like a transitionary shape to your cobra or your upward facing dog. But rather, we're coming from our down dog, we're rippling forward to our plank for our inhale, we're lowering for our exhale, we're pushing off the tops of the feet for our inhale, and then we're rippling back for our exhale. So something to look at with your chaturanga, right? So oftentimes maybe you find that your placement of your hands and your knees need to be adjusted. So a lot of us might take a shorter jog than is actually our jog. So we almost have to back up to plank pose to really understand the proper placement of our hands and feet for our chaturanga. So oftentimes it just takes one look in the mirror to see that your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders are stacked, your shoulders and your hips are stacked, your balls of your feet are underneath your heels. You're reaching your heels out. So when you think of it, you're in your Tadasana sort of sideways. So there's this really nice protraction into the shoulders. There's a really nice extension through the arms. You're really active through the arms. You're activating through the triceps. You're super engaged through the core, and you're zipping the outer hips towards the midline as you squeeze your glutes, as you engage through the calves and articulate through the ankles. It's a really full body shape. So starting with that plank pose. So we're here. So now you know the length of your downward facing dog. So you can keep your hands and feet as they are. Just send your hips up and back. And the tendency, if you're just looking at this for the first time, is you might feel like, oh, this is way too long, I need to walk my feet in. But rather, try to get friendly with it. Send your hips up higher, melt your heart back. You can have that bend in your knees, and then when you ripple forward to your plank pose, you're exactly where you need to be. You're pressing up or pressing forward through the tops of the feet, lower halfway, graze those elbows towards the rib cage. Pause here, then push off the tops of the feet. Find your upward facing dog, and exhale, moving back to your downward facing dog, and then your feet are exactly where they need to be. So then we're not doing the sort of like vinyasa shuffle of like walking the feet in and bringing them back and bringing them in and bringing them back. So looking at your chaturanga, I'll show you that complete flow with the use of the blocks, just so that you can start to use that in your practice. Really take the entire exhale in your chaturanga. It's a challenging shape. If it doesn't feel accessible to you, don't do it, right? Chaturanga is not for everybody, so you can take cat-cow instead. You could take knees, chest, chin. You could skip it altogether, go directly to downward facing dog. So there are lots and lots of options. This is just a way to cultivate strength and integrity in your chaturanga, should you choose to practice with it. So just find your blocks just one more time. Place them on the second height. Finding a sense of stability in your chaturanga, and then maybe you hold this one. Just get friendly with it. Find that muscle memory. You might even close your eyes, activate through the glutes, and then maybe from here you hover off of the blocks just a little bit, and then you lower down. You hover off the blocks a little bit, and then you lower it down. So you could play with that a few times, building that strength, and then just notice what parts of the body are activated in this shape, and feel strong. It's a super strong shape. I hope that was helpful. Any questions, please leave in the comments below. Please remember to subscribe by ringing the little bell. That is really helpful to help reach as many people that could use these tutorials, and I hope to see you on the mat soon. Namaste.